subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Synopsis: Shuzo Nijimura, who had been without a championship for 4 consecutive years in junior high school, sophomore, junior, and senior high school, accepted an interview with Weekly Basketball before the IH season of that year. At the end of the interview, the reporter mentioned the culprit for Shuzo Nijimura's 4 consecutive runner-ups, Okayama Miracle. As soon as he opened his mouth, Shuzo Nijimura couldn't hold back and interrupted the reporter's question. First of all, the best center in the country, that guy, Mitsuki Sendou, was considered a person at the beginning of junior high school, a center. Now, what kind of center is he? Chapter 001. Oji Okakase Yuki. What are you going to use to repay the future you owe me? Oji Okakase Yuki. What are you going to pay me back for the future you owe me? Ibaraki, Okayama Junior High School. A remark like accusing a scumbag came from the mouth of Sendou Mitsuki, along with the hand pointing directly at the boy in front of him, and then to the figure as tall as him. The boy called Oji Okakase Yuki, who was sincerely accused by Sendou Mitsuki, sighed with a distressed look on his face. Sendou-san, it is impossible to take you from our class to the basketball team within a minute, and you didn't apply for the basketball team when school started. Even if I take you there, I can't let you come and go as you please. Listening to Oji Okakase Yuki's words, Sendou Mitsuki fell into dejection visibly, and the whole person leaned against the wall and slowly slid down. My basketball dream has just begun. It's broken. Here, it's Kuroko's basketball. That's Kuroko's basketball. Sendou Mitsuki, he traveled to this world a month ago and learned the name of the wealthy teak from a weekly basketball magazine, and since then he knew what world he came to. At that time, he stroked his shiny silver hair, looked at his handsome face, and secretly sighed that it was all right. However, call system. There is no. Try to play basketball. It's a rookie. Apart from height, he has nothing. Oh, the only thing he has is the super supporting level of cunning defense honed on the baseball field in his previous life. The key is that what is the use of that thing in black basketball? There is no need for generation of miracles. 5 will be given away for free when they come. Then, Sendou Mitsuki didn't bother to go to Tokyo and went to Okayama Junior High School in Ibaraki, which no one in the black basketball world had ever heard of. As for the basketball dream, he has already thought it over, and it doesn't matter. In the future, he will quietly define his career as making money. But fate is such a trick. Just 2 minutes ago, he had thought deeply about it, because it was impossible to play science fiction basketball in this world, and then change his life goal. A major turning point has occurred. The reason? It was his belated golden finger. Black basketball parallel world character binding has been activated. Current parallel world. Number 1457115. Host, please bind the most talented basketball player within 5 meters of the surrounding area in 1 minute. After binding, you can extract the character's parallel world's ability entry by meeting the system's limited conditions. Host, please choose carefully. This binding is unique. Countdown, 59s, 58s. When he saw the system prompt in front of him, Sendou Mitsuki, who was in class, reacted quickly. The first thing he thought of was naturally not the generation of miracles. After all, as far as he knew, Teak had just joined a super rookie Nijimura Shuzo this year. Besides, that was Tokyo, and this was Ibaraki. Unless he teleported, there was no possibility of binding them. Then he chose the Okayama basketball team as his target. Although Okayama was not a strong team in the country, to be precise, it had not been able to make it to the national team for several consecutive years. It was still a strong team in Ibaraki. He went to the basketball team and tied up the captain of Okayama. Although he still couldn't beat those monsters like Teak later, with the system, he would be better than now. When he was in high school, he could just find a generation of miracles to hug his thighs, or Siren or something, so it was not in vain. Then, Sendou Mitsuki, who was studying extracurricular knowledge in class, jumped up. In the surprised eyes of the teacher and classmates, he grabbed his new friend Oji Oka Kasuyuki, who he got along well with in the class because of his height, and quickly said, "Oji Oka, take me to the basketball team." Everyone in the class was stunned, and the teacher was completely stunned. He just watched two freshmen about 180 centimeters tall running out of the class one after the other. Quickly lead the way, Oji Oka. You're good, brother. Your future depends on this. Then, he was backstabbed by his good brother. This idiot didn't take him to the basketball team at all, thinking that he wanted to join the basketball team. He took him directly to the team coach's office. Then, the countdown ended, and Sendou Mitsuki was in front of the building where the office was located, with a confused face. The system automatically activated and bound to Oji Oka Kasuyuki. Instantly, Sendou Mitsuki was completely defeated. Bound. Oji Oka Kasuyuki. You. Who are you? Seeing that Sendou Mitsuki looked like a bereaved mother, Oji Oka Kasuyuki shook his head helplessly. Although I may have misunderstood, no matter what you're planning, since you have failed, go back to class. Oh, right. Perhaps you can also go to the coaching room and submit your application for admission. In this way, you will at least have a reason to defend yourself when you go back later. As he said this, he stretched out his hand to Sendou Mitsuki, who was sitting on the ground. Sendou Mitsuki looked at the black-haired boy in front of him and was silent for a long time. Finally, with a solemn face, he stretched out his hand resignedly. Before going to the coaching room to submit the application, Sendou Mitsuki patted the other party's shoulder earnestly. Oji Oka, in basketball, you must be the legendary genius boy, right? You must work hard and become a man of miracle level. After saying that, Sendou Mitsuki was still a little worried and turned back to emphasize with a serious face. Even if you are not a genius boy, at least you must be a hard-working genius. Don't let up. Oji Oka Kasi, looking at the serious look on his new friend's face, Oji Oka Kasuyuki felt that there might be something wrong with the other party. What he said, here and there. But hardworking genius? It's the first time that someone has used such an adjective when he has high hopes for himself. Chapter 002. Number 494 Black Basketball World Oji Oka Kasuyuki's Ability Entry Restricted Area Operating Room. A few days later, when Shantang Mitsuki, who looked depressed and confused about the future, was at the scene of the first team training match, the system that had been silent suddenly sounded a mechanical and cold electronic sound in his ears. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the newcomer gift pack. Do you want to open it? Yes. The current host is in the 1,457,115th Black Basketball World, and the player Oji Oka Kasuyuki has been bound. Data generation. Newcomer gift pack opened. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the 494th Black Basketball World Oji Oka Kasuyuki Ability Entry. Restricted Area. Operating Room. Shantang Mitsuki. Question mark. Huh? What? What the hell? Operation Room in the penalty zone, LV1. When fighting for rebounds, the fight for rebounds in the penalty zone, prediction, positioning, speed, and bounce will be strengthened to a certain extent, and finally achieve the precision and stability of surgical operations. Sendou Mitsuki. It's so scary. I thought it was some evil ability. It turned out to be rebalance. But I seem to have a misunderstanding of this system. But thinking that it is still bound to Oji Oka Kasuyuki, no matter whether the entry drawn is from this world or him in the parallel world, this misunderstanding seems not so important. Focus. On the bench, Okayama coach Kitagawara Masa noticed that Sendou Mitsuki was distracted, glanced at him, and reminded him out loud. For a junior high school team like Okayama, they naturally don't have the outrageous first, second, and third army system like Teak, and even the admission of newcomers is relatively relaxed. Therefore, although Sendou Mitsuki missed the application for admission at the beginning of the school year, he has now successfully entered the team. But the basic strength still needs to be seen clearly. After the strong third-year players of Okayama retired last year, the strength of the second-year players was not well connected. Kitagawara Masa thought that this year would enter a period of pain, but with the joining of Oji Oka Kasuyuki in the new school year, the pain period seemed to end after another holiday. Now, There's also a Sendou Mitsuki. The most important thing, this newcomer was brought here by Oji Okase Yuki himself. It seems that he convinced the other party for a long time. Because of Oji Okase Yuki, Kitako Aramasa inevitably made up a lot of things in his mind. And therefore, on the first day that Sendou Mitsuki joined the basketball team, there was this training match. On the court, Oji Okase Yuki was killing all around. He was the only first-year player on the court. He was in the second-year team. Facing the seniors who just became third-year students this year, he showed an extremely outstanding offense, showing all kinds of footwork, ball-holding techniques, and mid-range and long-range shooting weapons one by one. The main feature is a mature technique. On the other hand, the third-year team played very poorly. The main problem was that their mid-range and long-range shots were unstable, or in other words, they looked quite unstable under the contrast of Oji Okase Yuki. In addition, Oji Okase Yuki blocked 2 consecutive shots of their best defensive counterattack, and they played timidly for a while. At this time, there were constant exclamations from a bench. But to be honest, although Oji Okase Yuki was so strong that Sendou Mitsuki was surprised, but such an ordinary style of play, because of the impression of black basketball world, compared with various Thunderbolt and Lightning scenes, Sendou Mitsuki was indeed difficult to be as surprised as others. I just silently raised Oji Okase Yuki's level in my heart, from an unknown fish in the black basketball world to a fish with strong personal strength, perhaps limited by the strength of his teammates and not included in the author's story. Then, Coach Kitagawa Haramasa noticed his expression and nodded thoughtfully. Soon, nearly 6 minutes into the first quarter, the third-year team took the initiative to call a timeout because in just 6 minutes, Kaseyuki Oji had already scored 9 points, 3 assists, 4 rebounds, and 2 blocks. The third-year team was humiliated. This year, outrageous. The third-year captain Suzuwa Shigeru, who came to the bench, was speechless. First, he didn't feel good today, and second, he noticed that he didn't feel good and turned to attack the basket, and then contributed one of Kaseyuki Oji's 2 wonderful blocks. At the same time, Coach Kitagawara Masama pulled Sendou Mitsuki and told him what he would do after he came on the court. But after listening for a long time, Sendou Mitsuki could only scratch his head with embarrassment. Sendou Mitsuki, Coach, is there any misunderstanding here? I only know how to defend, and at most pass the ball at the level of the baseball field, but what you said about shooting, organization, breakthrough, etc., is your tone too affirmative? Oh, thinking of the ability entry he just obtained, operating room in the penalty zone, Sendou Mitsuki silently added a rebound of unknown strength to what he could do. That's it. Under everyone's expectation, the newcomer Sendou Mitsuki came on the court. Even as an opponent of Oji Okase Yuki, he was with the third-year team. Captain Suzuwa Shigeru noticed the coach's attitude towards Sendou Mitsuki, and thinking of Oji Okase Yuki, he immediately stepped forward and patted Sendou Mitsuki on the shoulder and gave him a higher strength. The first grade is left to you. Sendou Mitsuki, really thank you. Chapter 003. Unparalleled rebounding ability, 3 rebounds in 1 offensive round. After the timeout, it was the third-year team's turn. Captain Suzuwa Shigeru held the ball at the top of the arc, but suddenly noticed that the opponent had shrunk their defense. This made him look dark, and he directly made a 3-pointer from the top of the arc ting. Coach Kitagawara Masa listened to the crisp sound of the iron shot and subconsciously supported his forehead. Go back to defense. But just as the third-year team went back to defense, the next second, a hand suddenly snatched the rebound from the head of the second-year team center, and the second-year center only had time to glimpse the silver flashing in front of him in surprise. And the number 15 on the black training vest. Sendou Mitsuki. Damn, to be honest, Sendou Mitsuki himself was so surprised to be able to grab this ball that his eyes widened. The rebounding ability of the operating room in the penalty zone allowed him to subconsciously jump up with his unparalleled sense of rebounding. The speed and height, he didn't come back to his senses until he grabbed the ball from the air and landed. Captain, after grabbing the rebound, Sendou Mitsuki turned his head and reminded Suzuwa Shigeru, who was retreating, and Suzuwa Shigeru immediately stopped and raised his hand to catch the ball. The pass was very fast. It was like a cannonball, and it went straight into his hands. At this point, the basketball team members off the court reacted and exclaimed for Sendou Mitsuki's smooth rebound and pass. At the same time, Suzuwa Shigeru learned his lesson and stepped into the three-point line in 2 steps. He shot again from a closer position, but the ideal is full and the reality is skinny. There was a big problem with the touch today. Damn, the shot missed again. Suzuwa Shigeru clenched his fist in frustration. Rebound. Protect the rebound. This time, everyone on the second-year team focused on the rebound. Oji Okakasa Yuki even went inside to help his teammates block Sendou Mitsuki with his body. Then the first time, Oji Okakasa Yuki felt the terrifying power of Sendou Mitsuki's lower limbs. Then, it's the technique. In a blink of an eye, after Sendou Mitsuki confronted, he turned his body and completed the position counterblocking and smoothly blocked Oji Okakasa Yuki behind him. Swish, pushing off the ground and jumping up. Snap, jumping quite fast. The height is also very good. Grab the offensive rebound and throw the ball out again. Ting. As another third-year player missed the shot, many members felt helpless and expectant. What was helpless was that the third-year shooting was too unstable today. And what they expected was that the newcomer, Sendou Mitsuki, who just came on the court, could grab the offensive rebound again. Hadao. Protect the rebound. Protect the rebound. The second-year players on the court shouted loudly to the second-year center guarding the basket. As a starter and a backup center for Okayama, Ryohei Kajima, who was highly expected by the team, let the first-year rookie grab offensive rebounds twice in a row, especially one time his teammates helped him to block the position. This made him completely unacceptable, and he gritted his teeth and thought to himself that he must get the rebound this time. Ryohei Kajima desperately blocked the favorable rebound position, and Shuntang Mitsuki countergrabbed it. Under the effect of the penalty operating room, the force of blocking the position made Ryohei Kajima feel like a bulldozer rolling over him. But for his dignity in the starting position, he could only grit his teeth and hold on. For a while, under the basket, the two players, one tall and one short, with completely different body shapes and thicknesses, were fighting for position under the basket like a meat grinder, especially Sendou Mitsuki, whose muscles seemed to be completely disproportionate to his blocking strength. This scene stunned everyone, and the exclamations in the gym were quieted down. The rebound fell from the air, and Kajima Ryohei, who had to use all his strength to keep his position, smiled as he looked at the rebound that was within his reach. But the next second, swish, whoosh, there was nothing behind him. A silver flashed in his peripheral vision, and he subconsciously moved sideways to block. There was nothing again. Snap! Immediately afterwards, the figure of the first-year student who took the rebound appeared in front of him again, positioning a beautiful fake move. What a fast turn. The jump after the turn is too fast. Outside the court, everyone couldn't help but discuss excitedly after seeing Sendou Mitsuki grab offensive rebounds in 3 consecutive rounds. On the court, Kajima Ryohei was completely incredulous that someone could easily pick the melons from his head. On the other side, Sendou Mitsuki naturally didn't care about the opponent's mood and passed the ball again. Captain Suzuwa Shigeru received the ball. Although this game was very bad, at least he shot without hesitation. Swish! Mid-range shot. At this moment, the members outside the court were not worried that the ball would be missed. On the contrary, they even hoped that this shot would be missed so that they could see the terrifying rebound of the newcomer again. However, swish! 2-point hit. After scoring the goal, Suzuwa Shigeru swung his fist and felt that he had the feeling of shooting. At the same time, the coach was looking at Sendou Mitsuki with a burning gaze. He thought, after grabbing offensive rebounds in such a deep position in the penalty area 3 times in a row, why didn't he choose to attack himself? Did he notice that the third-year player didn't feel good? Help them find their form? Coach Kitagawara Masa was thinking about it, but he didn't think about the fact that Shuntang Guanyue had no offensive ability. After all, judging from the athletic performance in the penalty area just now, no matter how he thought about it, Shantang Guanyue's sudden jump was enough to put the ball into the basket. But in fact, as soon as the rebound round ended, the effect of the penalty area operating room disappeared immediately, and Shantang Guanyue's speed, strength, and bounce all dropped drastically. Chapter 004: The Decadent Defense in the Eyes of the Coach and the Lively Rebounding Maniac. The term operating room in the restricted area. The effect. It can be said that it was immediate. The athletic performance during the 3 consecutive offensive rebounds also made Sendou Mitsuki feel that things were a bit complicated. The first one to bear the brunt was Ogioka. You in the parallel world number 494 black basketball world. So you're a rebounding maniac. So strong. Ogioka Kasayuki. Question mark. Just watching Sendou grab 3 rebounds in front of him. And even on the rebounds, he couldn't get involved at all, and Ogioka Kasayuki was immediately full of questions. Provocation? The second-year team's turn. Ogioka Kasayuki asked for the ball. He wanted to single out Sendou Mitsuki in response. On the third-year team side, at the signal of Coach Kitagawara Masa and the tacit consent of Captain Shuzo Shigeru, the others gave up Ogioka Kasayuki's defensive position and handed it over to their own super rookie. Even considering the performance of Sendou Mitsuki just now, the third-year team did not provide any help defense or double team, and really left Ogioka Kasayuki to him 1v1. Sendou Mitsuki, who was not in the rebounding round, was in the original state of being alone at this time. He suddenly came back to his senses from the excitement just now, and his face was bitter. Sendou Mitsuki, it's broken. I don't know if my wild ball defense can be done with this body. On the court, Ogioka Kasayuki slightly turned sideways. Drop ball. Body leaned. Bang. Ogioka Kasayuki. Question mark. Ogioka Kasayuki thought he would be strongly blocked, but he easily destroyed the defensive center of gravity of Sendou Mitsuki, which made him stunned for a moment. But he was in the offensive inertia and had no time to consider other things. A cautious shoulder fake. Changing the body in front. Pull out enough shooting space for yourself. Kasayuki Oji this first year. Amazing. Yes, for first year, 180 centimeters is already very tall, but his speed and agility make him look like a guard. Seeing that Kasayuki Oji was half a body away from Sendou Mitsuki, everyone couldn't help but admire his attack. Kasayuki Oji shot from mid-range. At this moment, Kasayuki Sendou adjusted his center of gravity and jumped to block the shot. Although he was a step slower and his jump was not as fast, his height and wingspan were similar to Kasayuki Oji, and he was prepared to block the shot from the beginning. So he successfully blocked Kasayuki Oji's eyes. Kasayuki Oji's eyes went dark immediately. Block. Kasayuki Sendou didn't jump with full strength. But, ding, the wonderful sound of ironing sounded. In the rebounding round, Sendou Mitsuki, who entered the penalty area, immediately showed a surge in athletic performance. He turned around and shuttled quickly, and his terrifying rebounding sense went straight to the position where the ball bounced. Snap! Quickly grabbed the defensive rebound. Everyone on the court was slightly stunned, just like Ogioka Kasayuki, and Sendou Mitsuki, who quickly ended the rebounding round, could not support his direct advancement with his skills. Then he waved his hand and signaled a fast break in a chic manner. Whoosh! The action was not very standardized at the baseball level, but it was a daring, long pass, sacrificing the beauty of the action, and accurately sent the ball to the front court. Shuzo Shigeru looked at the ball in front of him with some astonishment, adjusted his body slightly. Catch the ball. Bang! The slam dunk rarely seen by junior high school students. Although it was just a dunk, it pulled the basket out with an astonishing sound. After scoring consecutively, Shuzo Shigeru excitedly returned to the backcourt and clapped his hands with Sendou Mitsuki. Good pass. At the same time, off the court, Coach Kitagawara Masa narrowed his eyes in confusion. This Sendou Mitsuki, strange, so strange. The performance in defense just now was full of carelessness. Ogioka Kasayuki retreated after a collision and passed through after a flick. Even the last block did not reach the height of the ball. The success of defense can only be said to be very sly. It can all be attributed to the defensive experience. He didn't put in much effort at all, but when it came to rebounds, he suddenly became a rebound maniac with full enthusiasm and vitality. But then again, that defense, although decadent, was obviously the result of defensive experience honed over a long period of time, and rebounding was even super strong. Is there such a player in the first year of junior high school? It's completely opposite to junior high school players. Such athletic ability, defense, rebounds? Oka Kaseyuki is indeed a rare talent in the Okayama basketball team, but his offense, facing the decadent defense of Sendou Mitsuki, was evenly matched for a while. At the moment when Oka Kaseyuki received the pass from his teammate, Sendou Mitsuki suddenly seized that moment and approached. Close confrontation, not allowing Oka Kaseyuki to perform a three-threat posture at all. In desperation, Oka Kaseyuki could only retreat from a deep and advantageous offensive position to the outside of the three-point line, and then break through again. Bang. Sendou Mitsuki landed and stood still. He fell out at once. Timing judgment of Oka Kaseyuki's breakthrough route just right. Beep. Offensive foul. The third-year team has the ball. Oka Kaseyuki. This guy is really powerful, but his attitude when defending, as well as various unexpected methods, are really infuriating. Chapter 005. A big hook shot with one arm protecting the ball sideways, with a bit of the beauty of a formless shot. In the offense of the third-year team, Sendou Mitsuki's speed was the second to last across the half-court, only faster than the third-year team center. Compared with the 180 cm tall Kaseyuki, who was also a first-year, Sendou Mitsuki had the opposite standard big man athletic ability without the power of the word. The speed was quite slow. However, in the eyes of others, especially with the rebound before Sendou Mitsuki, he became a rebound maniac, and after pursuing the rebound, he was calm and undemanding. Captain Shuzo Nijimura thought about it. Newcomer, you come and play one. No need. I'll just grab the rebound. No, you come and play. As the captain, Shuzo Nijimura even took the initiative to run over to cover Sendou Mitsuki. Sendou had no choice but to run around the pick and roll to the restricted area with his relatively uniform pace without explosive power. Then, as expected, he was entangled by Kaseyuki. There is no other way. Seeing his teammates waiting to pass the ball to him, Sendou Mitsuki could only turn his back to block the ball. Behind him, Oka Kaseyuki saw that he was finally going to attack, and his eyes lit up. Finally, not so slow? Are you interested in attacking? Sendou, opening his arms, Oka Kaseyuki said excitedly, ready for battle. Bang! Sendou Mitsuki received the ball at the edge of the penalty area. It is impossible to face the basket. When it comes to dribbling through, Sendou Mitsuki is a complete idiot. Moreover, Oka Kaseyuki's athletic ability is no joke. Judging from his performance just now, this guy is not only offensive talent, but also his size, defensive awareness, and athletic ability, which make him have the potential to be an excellent defensive player. So, Sendou Mitsuki chose the safest back-to-back play. His physical ability is not as good as Oka Kaseyuki, but as the offensive side, he has the advantage of active force, so he can still play back-to-back. Although, in Oka Kaseyuki's eyes, the technique is very crude. Bang! Continuous collision of power. Sendou Mitsuki was trembling, unable to advance too much, so he simply received the ball at this position, stepped forward at the same time, a simple bottom step, and pushed out with all his strength. Beautiful defense compared to Sendou Mitsuki's offense. Watching this scene, everyone can only praise Oka Kaseyuki's defense. On the court. Are you kidding? Sendou, under the high-intensity confrontation, although the back-to-back and bottom steps failed to make a contribution, they were still decent, but when it came to the small hook shot at the end, Sendou Mitsuki's action was a little deformed. The result was naturally not unexpected. Boom! Hit the basket and missed. Oka Kaseyuki frowned, but Sendou Mitsuki was relieved. The bottom step is good, simple, practical, and can push into the penalty area. This means, after a missed shot, the penalty operating room can be effective immediately. The moment the ball hit the basket, Sendou Mitsuki changed her bitter expression, and in the stunned eyes of Oji Okakasuyuki, she turned over to block the ball with a rapid increase in speed and also took into account strength and agility. And the sense of rebounding far exceeds Oji Okakasuyuki. The last point is the most obvious, which can be seen from the choice of Sendou Mitsuki's blocking position. Almost at the same time as the ball hit the basket, it was stuck below the position where the ball bounced. Snap! Directly take it. The explosive elasticity that is completely different from the sickly attack just now, and the sense of strength when grabbing the ball with one hand and closing the hand when grabbing the rebound. The moment the ball is closed, the ball hits a hollow, muffled sound. Sendou Mitsuki. Wonderful. He couldn't help but feel a little excited by the physical ability and dynamism he had never had before. After grabbing the offensive rebound, he glanced at the basket that was so close. So, as long as he didn't get caught, it would be fine. Under the basket. Second attack. Oji Okakasuyuki immediately stuck to it. Ting. Still the sound of iron. Sendou Mitsuki was not convinced. Although the rebound ended, the bounce became like jumping again, and the attack route in front of him was also blocked, but there was no reason why he couldn't get in from such a close position, right? Come again. Ting. Ugly, twisted little hook shot. Another sound of iron. Crisp. Continue to grab offensive rebounds. Damn. If the little hook shot doesn't work, then try a floater. If the long shot doesn't work, can it get in from such a close position? Damn. It really can't get in. Under the basket, the scene of Shuntang Mitsuki showing off his offensive talent stunned everyone present. Although every move of that attack seemed so casual, coupled with the fact that there must be an explosive offensive rebound to support each shot, Shuntang Mitsuki's offense inexplicably has a taste of the strong teasing the weak at will. And even the one being teased is this year's super rookie Oji Okakasuyuki from Okayama. On the court, after brushing 5 rebounds in a row in an offensive round, Shuntang Mitsuki finally used a sideways one-arm ball-protecting hook to grab the ball into the basket. The action. It also has some beauty of formless shot. Chapter 006. No. 131. 5732 Black Basketball World Oji Okakasuyuki's ability entry 1 day customized training plan. My basketball dream was shattered just at the beginning. Do you want to hear what you were saying? Is it your dream that was shattered or mine? Thinking of the inexplicable words that day by Sendou Mitsuki, Oji Okakasuyuki, who was sitting on the bench at this time, was speechless. Although the current situation was not to the point of being shattered, Oji Okakasuyuki did doubt his life a little. In the 4 minutes of the first quarter, plus the full 10 minutes of the second quarter, Sendou Mitsuki sat under the basket, and the ball rights of the third-year team were fully guaranteed, especially the offensive rebounds. This item is extremely depressing. Every time a teammate missed a goal, Sendou Mitsuki would always appear in the right position, take the offensive rebound, and then distribute it to his teammates. Sometimes he would come up with a formless shot out of nowhere. Although in order to avoid the block, the hit rate was extremely low due to the messy movements, he could still use the rebound to increase the number of shots. Mid-range and long-range shots may be another matter, but the position so close to the basket in the restricted area is really a qualitative change caused by energy change. The entire first half, 16 minutes, Sendou Mitsuki grabbed 20 rebounds. Among them, there were 15 offensive rebounds. The remaining defensive rebounds also gave the second-year team a headache, because Sendou Mitsuki's passing was really wild, highlighting a dare to pass, all kinds of long passes, and he could complete the offense and defense conversion in the blink of an eye at any time. Although the error rate was not low, the frequency of offense and defense conversion was too high, which made the second-year team nervous and exhausted. After the start of the second half, the situation was completely controlled by the third-year team, leading by 29 points with 79:50. Captain Suzuha Shigeru, who was in good form, scored 28 points with an extremely low hit rate of 12 out of 34 shots before the end of the third quarter, plus 2 rebounds and 2 assists. Although as a power forward, the lonely 2 rebounds looked very strange. Considering that the 2 rebounds were taken before Sendou Mitsuki came on the court, it was even more strange. But the third-year team had an absolutely overwhelming advantage in rebounds because of the presence of Sendou Mitsuki, and they played such a crushing game despite their low overall shooting percentage. For a moment, everyone, including Coach Okayama, looked at each other in bewilderment. Coach Kitagawara Masa took the technical statistics beside him. Sendou Mitsuki, 6 points, 27 rebounds, 10 assists. The data is really weird. The points and rebounds are like misplaced, and the 10 assists are also very strange. If you haven't watched the game, you might think that this is the data of some point guard expert, but everyone who has watched the game knows that it is not because of how good Sendou Mitsuki's pass is. It's just that after grabbing the rebound, he threw the ball. The assists are all in this time difference, and they're just a casual additional product with the rebound. In the fourth quarter, Sendou Mitsuki did not play again. Without Shantang Mitsuki, the third-year team's decline was visibly increasing. Oji Oka Kasuyuki, who always felt that he had no place to use his energy, led the second-year students to quickly close the score. However, the pit ahead was too big. The moment the whistle sounded, the score was fixed at 109-94, and the third-year team won. At the same time, a series of mechanical and cold electronic sounds rang in Shantang Mitsuki's mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for helping the team win the game and obtaining the Black Basketball Parallel World Points 50. Ding! Game data point settlement. 6 points, obtained points 6, 27 rebounds, obtained points 54, 10 assists, obtained points 30 is scoring the least valuable? It was 1:1, followed by rebounds 1:2. Among the data obtained today, the most valuable was assists 1:3. Shantang Mitsuki. Damn, if you draw an assist-type entry at the beginning, wouldn't you be able to take off right away? In one game, Shantang Mitsuki got a total of 140 points. According to the system rules, every 100 points can randomly draw the ability entry of the parallel world Oji Okakayuki. After tasting the taste of the restricted area operating room, Shantang Mitsuki chose to start drawing it the first time. Then, as the system sounded again, ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the ability entry 1-day customized training plan of Oji Okakayuki. Number 13157332. In the Black Basketball world, clicked it and saw Shantang Mitsuki. Huh, you call this thing ability entry? 1-day customized training plan, one-time entry 1-day training plan of Oji Okakayuki. Number 13157332. In the Black Basketball world. After using it, you can get the desired attributes in a targeted manner, 1 to 3 points randomly. Ability, entry, good guy. This description is not separate, right? TSK. Forget it, the free attribute is not bad. You can increase a few points in 1 day. The cost performance is also very high. The direction of adding points. Let's focus on rebounding. Such a few points of attribute at other aspects. It is better to continue to strengthen rebounding. Rebounding. It's really good. Chapter 007. If no, for 94 is so strong, then the ones with higher numbers will be able to take off immediately, right? Name, Shantang Gwanya Team, Okayama Junior High School. Height, 179.5 centimeters. Weight, 63 kilograms. Wingspan, 187 centimeters. Speed, 53. Strength, 55. Ball control, 49. Passing, 64. Bounce, 60. Layup, 48. Dunk, 39. Mid-range shot, 44. Three-pointer, 27. Rebound, 61. Block, 51. Steal, 33. Single defense, 56. Assist defense, 47. Physical fitness, 65. Entry, penalty operating room, LV1. Black Basketball World number 494. 1-day customized training plan, one-time entry. Black Basketball World number 13157332. Shantang Guanyue looked at his current attributes and could only sigh pitifully. If it weren't for the support of the entries, this would definitely be even more outrageous than Kagane. At this time, the team training match ended with the third graders defending the victory. After summarizing the content of the game, under the shining gaze of coach Kitagawa Masa, Sendou Mitsuki shuddered, but fortunately his fiery eyes quickly moved to Oji Oka Kasayuki. After relaxing, standing in the queue of the basketball team, recalling everything, Sendou Mitsuki's eyes, without him realizing it, gradually revealed the same brilliance as the coach's eyes in Oji Oka Kasayuki's strange expression. And, thinking of his performance on the court just now, all kinds of images hovering in his mind made Sendou Mitsuki's excitement surge. Sendou Mitsuki, hey, it was me who played like that on the court just now? Awesome. Turning his head to Oji Okagase, although he didn't know if his judgment was right, if the parallel world where the ability entry was drawn was closer to the front, the ability would also be stronger than the Forbidden Zone operating room of the No. 494 Black Basketball world was already so strong, and if he drew a higher number in the future, wouldn't he take off directly? At the same time, Oji Okagase ignored the strange look of Sendou Mitsuki, lowered his eyes, took a deep breath, and cleared some of the inner shock caused by the defeat just now. After a while, the blazing fire in his eyes was hidden under his calm face. He turned his head and looked at Sendou Mitsuki again, with a sense of ritual, and whispered, "Please give me more advice in the future." Sendou. On the other side, Captain Suzuha Shigeru glanced at the two super rookies. At this time, Sendou Mitsuki didn't know what he said, and he always felt that Oji Okagase imposing expression just now had collapsed. Suzuha Mwachi smiled. Okayama Junior High School. When will it be number 1 in Ibaraki? After confirming the abilities of Oji Oka Kasayuki and Sendou Mitsuki, Suzuha Mwachi was sure that as long as they were there, it would not be long before Okayama would make it to the national level again. Even, maybe this year? Suzuha Mwachi thought seriously, and didn't even notice that Coach Kitagawa Masa was calling him. The next day, it was a rest day at school, but it was a training day for the basketball team. In the basketball hall at this time, bang, there was a loud explosion in the air. The ball was passed by a silver figure in the air, and with the sound of the ball hitting the basket, the trajectory of the ball after it bounced off the basket also changed suddenly because of the figure that flashed by. The air was instantly quiet. After a moment, on the court, Hino Jinya, who was also a freshman, shuddered and swallowed dryly. He said with a face full of fear, "How terrible. How can a junior high school student grab rebounds like this?" The ball just touched the basket and bounced up not very high before it was snatched away. It was almost a rebound in seconds. The most important thing is the momentum when jumping up to grab the rebound. How to say it? Hino Jinya even felt that if he was not careful, Sendou Mitsuki might take his head away like a rebound. Therefore, facing the fierce momentum just now, he had the urge to retract his arms and hug his head. 20 minutes later, the first-year training match ended. This time, Sendou and Oji Oka Kasayuki traveled at different times and did not appear in the same stadium. His team also relied on his 25 rebounds in 20 minutes to kill people in Buddhas. In a blink of an eye, the basketball team's training for the day is over. But Shantang Guanyue's one-day customized training plan has not yet ended. Current training intensity effect. Training time, countdown, 1H.37 minute. Shantang Guanyue, who stayed to practice, followed the training plan subconsciously, and his consciousness was completely immersed in the training for rebounding. At the same time, because the training is aimed at improving rebounding ability, the experience bar, a penalty operating room LV.1, is also slowly rising. Shantang, the training is over. Do you want to continue? The first-year students saw Shantang Guanyue, who wanted to continue after another set of rebounding training, and they immediately shouted. However, at this time, Shantang Guanyue's training enthusiasm was unprecedentedly high because of the visible increase in the experience bar, so he didn't hear their voices at all. Then we'll leave first. Oji Oka, you're not leaving either? After getting a positive response from Oji Oka Kasuki, the first-year rookies Makoto Tanaka, Shinya Hino, Toyoko Kuramiya, and Keira Doji thought about it and decided not to practice more considering their fatigue after a day of training. However, they didn't leave the gym immediately. Instead, they sat on a bench with Ogioka Kasuyuki on the sidelines, watching Shinda Mitsuki's training silently. Chapter 008. The team motto of the Okayama basketball team is to keep your feet on the ground and move forward along the mountains and rivers. After the one-day customized training plan was over, Sean Tanguanyue called up the system and found that his rebound attribute had increased by 2 points, which was gratifying to 63. At the same time, penalty operating room LV.1 foot also increased by a little experience. However, according to Sean Tang's own estimation, with the intensity of the first, second, and third grade training games, it would take at least 25 games to upgrade to LV.2. Fortunately, although the daily training for rebounding increased less, it could at least increase it. In this way, the number of games could be reduced a lot. It was already past 6 o'clock. Even though it was approaching summer, the sun was setting later. At this time, the sky was almost dark. He rested on the spot and fiddled with the system. After a while, Sean Tanguanyue dragged his sweaty body and turned his head to catch a glimpse of several people sitting in a row. In the empty gym, the first-year students sitting there were particularly conspicuous. Seeing that Senda Mitsuki had finally finished, several people stood up and were about to help him collect the balls and clean up the court, but suddenly heard the other party say, "Wait a minute, it's not over yet." First-year point guard Tenshi Keiru suddenly widened his eyes. "Still, not over yet." Senda Mitsuki nodded. "Well, add a few more sets of rebounds. I'll clean up later. By the way, why haven't you left yet?" Everyone, a moment of silence. Finally, it was still Ogioka Kasuyuki who stood up and said with a smile, "How should I put it? Just like Sendou, you always read other books that I don't understand in class, the role you told me before. We are now embarrassed to leave because of your role hearing this." Senda Mitsuki couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. If he hadn't realized it, basketball today was actually equated with his money-making business, and he was happy to roll for so long. "I really want to improve." Just then, Tenshi Keiru suddenly raised his hand. "I want to improve too." Senda Mitsuki turned his head to look at the flat-headed man in front of him who was less than 170 centimeters tall. After catching a glimpse of his eyes, the latter, who didn't know what he thought of, immediately avoided his sight with some trepidation. If Senda wants to practice rebounding, maybe I can help. After all, I'm not very accurate in shooting." Sendou, as Keiru Denshi spoke, his voice became smaller and smaller. Finally, he scratched his head a little embarrassedly, because after reacting, he always felt that the meaning of his words just now was a bit like using Senda Mitsuki as a shooting sparring partner. In addition, he was not an outgoing person. It can be said that just taking the initiative to speak up had almost consumed all his courage. Sorry. In fact, Senda Mitsuki didn't think much about it. Instead, he felt that if someone was so suitable for him to practice, wouldn't it be like picking up a few rebounds for free? They shoot and they grab rebounds. Just right, Keiru Denshi. It's bad. Seeing that Shantang was training so passionately, he stood up immediately. "What should I do now?" Shantang was very fierce when he was grabbing rebounds. He wouldn't be angry, would he? Just when Keiru Denshi's heart was fluctuating violently, a warm voice suddenly sounded. "It's great to have your help. How about you? Do you want to come together? You practice shooting, I'll grab rebounds, and pass the ball." Everyone was stunned when they heard Shantang Mitsuki's words. Okay, I'll come too." "Me too." After everyone came to their senses, they immediately took off their coats and looked at Shantang Mitsuki, who was excited not far away. Suddenly, they found that this student, who was particularly obsessed with rebounds, frowned and glared at others with a particularly sharp look when others picked up rebounds during training games, did not seem to be as scary as they imagined. Ogioka Kasuyuki, I told you all that Shantan's personality is very good Hino Jinya. But you obviously hesitated? It's completely misunderstood. While they were discussing, Keiru Denshi couldn't wait to start shooting, and the first shot he made was a clean miss. Tink! The next second, Sendou Mitsuki jumped up like a flying bird, with a powerful rebounding move and an extremely relaxed posture in the air. At the same time, after grabbing the ball with one hand, he held the ball between his hands, with a signature sound, bang, in the silent gym. It was as if a thunderbolt exploded from the ground. With this unobstructed vision, everyone who could clearly see Sendou Mitsuki's full effort to grab the rebound suddenly had a dull look in their eyes and couldn't help swallowing. Everyone. Sure enough, it was still so scary. Oji Oga Kaseyuki. It seems. It was a little violent. At the same time, Shantang Guangyue moved his arms and was quite satisfied with his rebounding judgment just now. Then, he said something that made people astonished. 100 more balls. How many? How many? 100. 100 per person. The second floor stands of the stadium. Coach Bei Yuanzheng looked at the field with a smile, and the assistant coach beside him looked a little solemn. Coach Beiha, Shantang is so obsessed with rebounding. Is it okay? Beiha Yuanzheng shook his head. A weapon that works at the beginning may not always work. It must continue to improve. No one can catch up with the speed of improvement. Only then can it be a weapon. Shantang knows this very well. At this point, Beiha Yuanzheng glanced at the wall on the side of the stadium. The way of a gentleman is like a journey from far to near. To accomplish something, you must start from the ground and do it step by step. The assistant coach's expression became serious when he heard this, and he looked in the direction of Beiha Yuanzheng's gaze. I just saw the team training of the Okayama basketball team. Keep your feet on the ground and walk along the river. Chapter 009. Facing a team like Mamakura, Shantang will grab 20 rebounds and win the game. A few days later, Okayama Junior High School welcomed the first away game of the new school year. The opponent was also from the Ibaraki area, the old rival, Mamakura Junior High School. The venue was arranged in the Okayama gym. Okayama lineup: 3rd grade, Captain Suzuo Shigeru, who was pushed to the small forward position. 3rd grade, center Kurono Yuji. 3rd grade, point guard Shirkai Hyde. At the same time, there are also 1st grade shooting guard Oji Oka Kaseyuki and power forward Sendou Mitsuki. During this period, Sendou Mitsuki and Oji Oka Kaseyuki's outstanding performances have been quickly arranged by the coach to start. Considering Sendou's playing style, Coach Kitagawara Masa once wanted to let him play center directly, but in the end, due to the height problem, he compromised and put Sendou Mitsuki at the power forward position. But even so, a 180-centimeter power forward may be acceptable in Ibaraki, but once it is taken to the national level, Sendou Mitsuki's current height will undoubtedly be a small inside player. But what made him grab rebounds? That's right, Kitagawara Masato is already considering the national team. In addition, the original starting power forward in the team, Captain Suzuo Shige, was arranged to the small forward position, which has little impact. After all, Suzuo Naoto is more inclined to shoot. Coming to the small forward position, with his 185 centimeters level physical condition, it may be easier to play. At this time, many students have gathered in the Okayama arena, and there are also a few figures from Mamakura Junior High School. After seeing the lineup of Okayama, these Mamakura students immediately discussed, "Hey, I knew that Okayama had a big problem this year. Those two are newcomers, right? Ha! You saw it too. The 5 starting players, 2 freshmen, and 3 third-year students with unstable shooting. This year, Mamakura will definitely step over Okayama to chase the quota to the national team." Among the students of Mamakura, there are fans of the team who know the situation of the old rival Okayama like the back of their hands. After seeing the 5 people from Okayama wearing the starting jerseys and preparing to warm up on the court, they couldn't help but sneer and tease. However, someone in the crowd of Okayama students frowned immediately after hearing his words. I hope you can still be so optimistic after the game starts. Oh, isn't this Asakawa from the Okayama cheering group? To be honest, as students of Mamakura, they are very envious of Asakawa Yui, a 2nd-year student at Okayama Junior High School. After all, last year, they could see the support of this long-legged beauty in any game in Okayama. But as opponents, they don't care about anything else when they really face off. I also hope that Asakawa can still support Okayama with such confidence this year. The subconscious sarcasm increased the momentum of looking down on Asakawa Yui as she approached. Tout, song students. So high. Asakawa Yui raised her eyebrows, not hiding her confidence in Okayama, especially her appreciation and preference for this year's newcomers. At least it's enough to beat Tout's Song, and facing a team like Tout's Song with a weak inside line, Sendou will grab 20 rebounds and win the game. Tout Song students. How many? How many? All Tout Song students were stunned, looking at each other, wondering if they heard the number wrong. 20 rebounds? Azekawa. Are you still asleep? Sendou Mitsuki. I know, a newcomer in Okayama, 180 centimeters, but I didn't expect him to be an inside player, to grab 20 rebounds in today's game. Although Tout Song is not good at inside line, it is not something that newcomers can handle, let alone 20. I can guarantee that your newcomer will definitely be robbed by us today. The head of Tout Song's intelligence said with a firm face. The starting center of Mamakura is the 186 centimeters third-year student Minamitsuji Tatsuo. Although his offensive ability is weak, his defense and rebounding ability are of good standard. Thinking of this, the head of Mamakura Intelligence looked at Asakawa Yui. He secretly said, I haven't heard that Asakawa Yui is the type of stupid beauty. I underestimated Minamitsuji Tatsuo. Although rebounding has a component of luck, considering the figure of Sendou Mitsuki and the status of a rookie, even if he is lucky, it is impossible for him to grab 20 rebounds in front of our senior Minamitsuji. After Asakawa Yui glanced at the expressions of the students of Mamakura, he faintly revealed a smirk. Mamakura, since you think Sendou can't grab 20 rebounds, how about we make a bet? Bet? The head of Mamakura Intelligence was slightly startled. What? Don't you dare? Just now you were confident that my rookie couldn't get 20 rebounds. Asakawa Yui raised her eyebrows beautifully. Bet on this? There might be other possibilities. Wouldn't that be a sure win? Okay, no problem. What's your bet? The head of Tout Song Intelligence didn't know what he was thinking of, and suddenly his eyes lit up. He suppressed his impatience and pretended to be calm. However, Asakawa Yui saw through his blushing face at a glance. If you lose, just find a boy to confess, the head of Tout Song Intelligence. Okay, that's how you play it, right? In that case. Okay, but if you lose, you have to agree to go out with me. The head of intelligence showed his true colors. Anyway, he didn't think that the short inside player from Okayama, who was even a freshman, could grab so many rebounds in front of senior Minamitsuji. Don't even mention 20. He was lucky to get 10. However, he was dreaming of a date and did not notice the mocking expressions of the Okayama students after he accepted the bet. Smiles, one weirder than the other. Chapter 010. Hyena grabs crotch. Watch out for those who are watching Shantang play basketball for the first time. It's coming. Before the game started, Sendou Mitsuki and Oji Okakasa were whispering on the court. Sendou, are you serious? Oji Okakasa silently complained about Sendou Mitsuki's wild ideas, but after a brief simulation in his mind, he felt that the success rate was quite high. It's just, I feel a little embarrassed. Don't worry, it will definitely be fine, Sendou Mitsuki said with a smile. Okay. Oji Okakasa finally nodded, and the coach on the sideline saw Sendou Mitsuki and Oji Okakasa whispering. Although he didn't know what they were talking about, he couldn't help but smile knowingly when he saw that the two of them were communicating well. The center jump ball in the center circle was Okayama center Kurono Yuji and Mamakura center Minami Tatsuji Tatsuo. The two are of similar height and jumping ability. However, in addition to these, luck also plays a big role in jump ball. For example, at this time, the position where the referee threw the jump ball was not so friendly to Tout Song Middle School. Kurono Yuji jumped hard and passed the ball to Shirkai Hyde in the backcourt. First time, Shirkai Hyde advanced with the ball, until he held the ball at a 45-degree angle on the right wing outside the three-point line. Shantang Mitsuki went forward to pick and roll, playing a set of conventional offensive tactics practiced in Okayama. At the same time, Taotsang's point guard, who was defending Shirkai Hyde, took the approach of going around the pick and roll from behind. The advantage is that it can effectively prevent breakthroughs, and the disadvantage is that it is difficult to interfere with the ball holder's shooting. Shirkai Sr. Shantang Mitsuki reminded Shirkai Hyde immediately after noticing the opponent's choice to go around the pick and roll. Shirkai Hyde understood and raised his hand to make a jump shot from outside the three-point line. It can be seen that now Okayama, like playing in the team training game, all players focus on one dare to shoot. Without saying anything, Sendou Mitsuki turned around decisively and went to the restricted area to fight for the offensive rebound. Boom! The three-pointer missed. The ball bounced out of the basket. However, the landing point of this ball was really unlucky for Sendou. Not only did it bounce completely in the opposite direction of his running to the inside, but the height of the ball was also quite high. Even if Sendou Mitsuki predicted the position, it would have bounced out of the restricted area by the time he rushed over. As everyone knows, Sendou Mitsuki's rebounding ability is called the restricted area operating room. Then, the ball was picked up by Mamakura's center Minamitsuji Tatsuo. Huh, did you see that? Asakawa, the newcomer from Okayama, will never be able to beat Minamitsuji Senpai in rebounds. On the second-floor audience stand, the head of Mamakura Intelligence said with a smile on his face. However, before Asakawa Yui could refute, the point guard of Mamakura Middle School, who was preparing for a fast break, asked Minamitsuji Tatsuo for the ball. Just as Minamitsuji Tatsuo was about to pass the ball, a figure sneaked in from outside the court. That's right, it came in from outside the court. The next second, snap, a flash of silver flashed in front of Minamitsuji Tatsuo's eyes, and the pass was immediately destroyed. No way. Where did he come from? At this time, not only the audience was stunned, but also the players of Okayama were dumbfounded. Although they did not notice when Sendou Mitsuki hid in that position, they were on the defensive side and saw Sendou Mitsuki bending all the way from the outside of the court, stealing the ball from the opponent behind Minamitsuji Tatsuo. Excited but also surprised. Think about it carefully. In addition to Sendou Mitsuki's unexpected sneak attack, there is also the superb acting of Oji Oka Kaseyuki. He has always been cautious. In the previous round, he did not immediately look for his own defender, but instead defended the connection between Minamitsuji Tatsuo and the point guard. In this way, it not only increased the difficulty of passing the ball to the Mamakura point guard, but also created a line on the court that was easy to pass the ball to the Mamakura shooting guard. And this line was deliberately left for Sendou Mitsuki to steal the ball. This move was taught by Sendou Mitsuki himself, commonly known as the hyena crotch grab of the sixth player on the court. The reason why Sentong Guanyue thought of this trick was not because he had any special hobby of being the sixth player, but because of the steal item, the points were given too much. The ratio of points to points is 1-to-1. Rebounds are 1-to-2. Assists are 1-to-3. And after Sentong Guanyue's attempts during this period, it was finally concluded that the block was 1-to-4, and the steal was an astonishing 1-to-5. This time, earned 5 points for a steal. Therefore, considering the current pitiful 33-point steal attribute, this sixth player has to be the sixth player and must be coordinated with Oji Oka Kaseyuki to fix the opponent's passing path. Otherwise, with such a small attribute, it is not necessarily possible to steal the ball when being the sixth player. On the court, after stealing the ball, Sentong was inevitably a little excited. In addition, there was no defense in front of him during the transition between offense and defense. Then, Sentong Guanyue chose to start directly and made a three-step layup into the penalty area. But unfortunately, Minamitsuji Tatsuo, who was furious after being grabbed in the crotch, rushed over with his eyes wide open and raised his long arms to interfere. Although he couldn't block it due to the distance, the 48-point layup of Sentong was just SOSO. Ting, Asakawa, your new player's basic skills are not good enough. If it was our new player in Mamakura, this ball would definitely go in. The head of Mamakura's intelligence saw that Sentong Mitsuki failed to make a layup, and the embarrassment of being intercepted just after he finished speaking, was relieved. But when he turned around, he found that everyone in Okayama, including Asakawa Yui, did not refute, but their eyes were shining with unusual excitement, and I don't know what they were looking forward to. It's coming. Hey, it's coming. Watch out for the first time watching Senton play. It's coming. Mamakura people. What? It's coming? What? However, before they could react, in the field, a loud bang. When Taotsong and the others turned their heads to look at the court, they saw the jaw-dropping scene. The rookie number 12 who had just missed the layup was now showing off his silver hair and his wild posture and height in the air like picking the moon in the sky. And he grabbed the rebound with a bang. Chapter 011. Oh, sorry, I checked the wrong one. But now it's the fourth one. After grabbing the rebound, Sendou Mitsuki did not choose to do it himself this time, but instead saw the open space outside in the air and passed the ball directly. Captain Suzwa Shigeru received the ball and shot from a wide-open position in the middle distance. Ting! The shot missed again. Suzwa Shigeru had some regrets on his face, but at the same time, after the shot missed, he immediately started to run out of inertia, while on the other side, Sendou Mitsuki under the basket was full of smiles. Sendou Mitsuki. Hey, it's good that you can't make a shot rebound TSK. Takura center Tatsuo Minamitsuji was not to be outdone. In the area where every inch of land under the basket must be fought for, he launched an attack on the Okayama newcomer who was obviously shorter and thinner than him. However, Sendou Mitsuki blocked the position. With a turn, in the blink of an eye, he had arrived in front of Tatsuo Minamitsuji. From the outside, you can see Tatsuo Minamitsuji's majestic expression. However, as the starting center of Mamaka, Minamitsuji Tatsuo was not so fragile as to give up directly. He exerted force on his feet and stuck to the side of Sendou Mitsuki. Then, everyone only heard a muffled sound. When everyone in Mamakura thought that the newcomer from Okayama would respond with beautiful positioning skills, the silver figure with the number 12 on his back unexpectedly came to a head-on confrontation. With the blessing of the operating room in the penalty zone, Sendou Mitsuki easily predicted the landing point of the rebound. Since it had already been positioned, he naturally would not waste time to let go and respond with positioning skills. Then, with the powerful lower limb strength, Minamitsuji Tatsuo, who was a big center, was squeezed all over the place. Minamitsuji Tatsuo, who was clearly stronger than Sendou Mitsuki, staggered backwards. Obviously, in terms of strength, the two people have a level difference. Bang! At this moment, no skills. It's all violence of positioning under the basket. Okayama center Kurono Yuji was also stunned. When he came to his senses, he realized that he was supposed to be in a position with the opponent's center, but he had fallen to the power forward position without knowing when. But when he saw that Minamitsuji Tatsuo was pushed like a paper in the position under the basket, Kurono Yuji could only silently help Sendong to block the power forward, and secretly said, "Senton Mitsuki is awesome. Grab him hard." The ball fell. Bang! Senton Mitsuki, who was in a completely advantageous position, once again made a silver dragon into the sky. This time, everyone in Takura saw it clearly. Minamitsuji Tatsuo widened his eyes in fear. He was already in the third grade, but it was the first time he saw this level of rebounds, especially since Senton Mitsuki was shorter, which made the ball more terrifying. Off the court, Coach Takura's face turned black. Where did that Olbd Beha get this new player from? Damn, his sense of rebounding is so accurate and so fast. On the side, the Takura players on the bench nodded silently, thinking no wonder he can start in Okayama as a freshman and as an inside player. Extraordinary. He must not be regarded as a freshman. However, even if the level of Sendou Mitsuki has been raised as much as possible. But the terrifying moment has just begun. This time, Sendou Mitsuki, who grabbed the offensive rebound, did not find a teammate in position in time with his passing vision. In this case, he came by himself, facing the defense of Minamitsuji Tatsuo. Like jumping strong, under the overwhelming block of Minamitsuji Tatsuo, the restricted area evaded the block. XJB threw without fixed pattern. Ding! Ha! The jumping during the attack is not completely without benefits. At least when it comes to the rebound round, Sendou Mitsuki can land faster and take off faster, so the sound of the rebound is almost the same as the sound of the basket. The moment when Minamitsuji Tatsuo blocked Sendou Mitsuki, he looked at the messy shots in front of him and his eyebrows jumped. Sure enough, after the block failed, he saw Sendou Mitsuki, who was jumping like a matchbox just now, suddenly flew up on the spot like sitting on a helicopter. Damn it, what kind of offensive routine is this? The sound of the rebound above his head made Minamitsuji Tatsuo feel creepy for a while, but for the Okayama players, it was like the sound of nature. Okayama players experience it well. What kind of torture have we been suffering during this period of time? Second floor stands For rebounds already, Asakawa Yui looked at Sendou Mitsuki in the court, her eyes sparkling. She had been caringly helping Mamakura to check the number of rebounds since the beginning. Her voice was pleasant, but she did not hide her teasing in the other person's face. Mamakura's intelligence chief turned his head away from her and said calmly with a blank expression, "Asakawa, it's just 3 rebounds, just 3 rebounds." Although she was as hard as iron, she was panicking in her heart. Opening. 1 round. 3 rebounds. Damn. What a rebounding monster if it goes on like this. Let alone the upper limit of 10 rebounds he expected. It is very likely that he can get 10 rebounds in the half or even in a single quarter. Is she really going to find a man to confess her love? At this moment, Asakawa Yui suddenly laughed like a silver bell, glanced at her side, and said with a playful look, "Oh, sorry, I just checked it wrong, but now it's the 4th one on the court." Protecting the ball with one arm again, Sendou Mitsuki, who was forced to attack through people, faced the double defense in the penalty area. After a shot that the Okayama players were accustomed to, he grabbed another offensive rebound. Off the court, when the players on the Taotsang bench saw Sendou Mitsuki shoot, they had already put their hands on their heads, but what rang in their ears was still the crisp sound of the ball in the air with the flash of silver. For a while, the Taotsang bench and the coach were so gloomy that they seemed to have a black face. It was very quiet. Chapter 012. Okayama, a team that was criticized for its constipated offense last year, now seems to be so powerful. Go! Rebound! Yikawa, go help Minamitsuji. Make sure to keep the rebound. Coach Mamakura on the sidelines had a gloomy face. He couldn't sit still at all. He stood up and called on the small forwards on the court to go inside to help grab the rebound. However, the moment when Mamakura's small forward left the defensive position was accurately captured by Sendou Mitsuki. With a swoosh, without any technical content, he made a quick pass and sent it to Oji Oka Kaseyuki. Facing the wide open space, Oji Oka Kaseyuki didn't hesitate. After all, during this period of time, he also saw that Sendou probably hoped that he couldn't make the shot. Decisive shot. Swoosh. The ball drew good arc in the air. Swish. Hit. However, Oji Oka Kaseyuki turned his head and saw that everyone on his bench, who had just been excited, sat back with disappointment after seeing his shot. Oji Oka Kaseyuki. Strange. Playing with Sendou is so strange. After glimpsing Oji Oka Kaseyuki's expression, the players on the bench came back to their senses and applauded awkwardly, as if nothing had happened. Nice shot. Come on. Haha. Well done, Oji Oka. Everyone cheered for Oji Oka Kaseyuki, but now they were more concerned about Sendou Mitsuki's amazing performance. After everyone calmed down, they didn't react too much. After all, routine operation of course, when coach Kitagawara Masa saw this offensive round, he was thinking more about Sendou Mitsuki. After the third-year players who were very strong last year retired, not only other teams in the Ibaraki area, but also himself, thought that there was no hope of hitting the national level this year. But with the arrival of Oji Oka Kaseyuki, the fire of hope began to ignite, and the addition of Sendou Mitsuki directly turned this little flame into a raging flame. On the outside, there is Oji Oka. In the inside, there is Sendou. This team may create an unimaginable miracle. In the first half of the game, Okayama completely suppressed Mamakura and beat him wildly. Especially for a team like Mamakura, which is center on the outside, Once the touch fluctuates, it will be the fault of Sendou Mitsuki, who likes this rhythm. If the touch is not open, the defense can be more shrunk. Closer to the penalty area, the ability terms can be used as much as possible rebounds coming one after another on the other hand. Okayama's weak shooting gradually found its feeling under the feeding of Sendou Mitsuki's rebounds. And there was also the relatively stable Oji Okakasuyuki on the outside. For a while, Okayama, a team that was criticized for its constipated offense last year, seemed to be so mercury flowing the first foreign war of the new school year. The effect was surprisingly good, especially the performance of Sendou Mitsuki, a stable rebounding monster, so stable that it was ridiculous. His rebounding sense was as accurate as a scalpel, and his physical ability would burst out when he got to the rebounding round playing against Mamakura. It was almost a one-star shooting game with Sendou as the core. Even the center Kurono Yuji was in a relatively close position and made a great shot. Very soon, Mamakura was forced to call timeout. Players from both sides went off the court to rest. Coach Kitagawara Masa applauded everyone, and the players excitedly gave towels and water one by one, especially Sendou Mitsuki, and everyone came forward to ask. Mainly, Sendou, what's the situation with your steal? Yes, Sendou. Even if it was Sendou Mitsuki, it was impossible to grab every rebound. But with the old sick skill of hyena crotch grabbing, every time the penalty operating room missed the rebound, Sendou Mitsuki, with his superhuman rebounding sense, immediately turned around to avoid the opponent's field of vision, slipped to the baseline, and prepared to steal the ball after the opponent grabbed the rebound. For a moment, no matter whether he could grab the rebound or not, he was always busy in every rebounding round on the other side. Oji Okakasuyuki was also asked by his teammates with an embarrassed look on his face. However, as the one who cooperated with Shantang, he still felt that this stunt was a bit unethical, so he was a little embarrassed when he responded. That. Ask Shantang, he taught me all of them. Tacit understanding. Not really, to be honest. That doesn't seem to be difficult. Pay attention to Shantang's position. Match his rhythm. That's great. You can cooperate with him if you have a chance. On the other side, on the bench of Takura, everyone's face was very ugly, especially the center Minami Tatsuo in the interior. Now, when he thinks of the bright silver flying in the air, he will think of some not-so-good memories. Last year, when he went to Tokyo for a foreign war, Teak's center also beat him, but the opponent easily defeated him with his legitimate scoring ability. And Sendou Mitsuki, almost all rebounds. This kind of blow made Minamitsuji Tatsuo even more uncomfortable because he really couldn't grab the ball and there was no way to break the trick. The opponent really had one trick, pure rebounding and crushing. At this time, Coach Mamakura had a dark face. He looked at the tactical board in his hand, hesitated for a moment, and turned his head to look at the substitute center wearing the number 9 jersey on the bench. Aoi, Coach Mamakura said. Yes. Aoi stood up quickly and answered nervously. Ademasa, 3rd grade of Mamakura Junior High School. This year, his height has increased to an excellent 190 centimeters. But with the increase in height, his athletic ability has not unexpectedly declined, resulting in a sharp drop in defensive ability. But he still has a very good shooting and attacking ability. Coach Taotsan's idea is very simple. Since you can't grab rebounds, then play with your success rate to reduce your chances of grabbing rebounds. As for defense, anyway, that Shantang Guanyue doesn't look like he can attack seriously. Chapter 013. Ogioka Kasuyuki ended up doing the same thing as Sendou Mitsuki. He did it too. Coach Mamakura was about to arrange for the backup center Aoi Masa to play, but Aoi Masa was visibly surprised and panicked. Although he was a third-year player like Minamitsuji Tatsuo, he knew his own business. His height surged, which made his athletic ability decline quite clumsily, and he went from an outside player to a center. But his playing style, he still played outside, and his speed and control became worse. Now seeing the silver-haired demon who could press Minamitsuji Tatsuo to the floor, Aoi Masa couldn't help but think what would happen to him after he played, relying on his high shooting and attacking the basket, with only these two weapons left? Besides, speaking of rebounding, He was far inferior to Minamitsuji. You useless guy, what are you afraid of? He is only a first-year player, and you're already a third-year player. If you don't dare to play against him, you will always sit on the bench for the last year. Coach Mamakura saw through the fear in Aoi Masa's heart, frowned, and said coldly, "No, Coach, I'm not scared." Aoi Masa hurriedly defended himself, and Coach Mamakura snorted coldly, and then let him go. However, as a coach, he was also very clear about Aoi Masa's concerns, and then continued to speak. "Aoi, when you go on the court later, it is likely that Suzuwa Shigeru, who is the closest to your height, will defend you. Don't hit him directly. You can hold the ball and cooperate with the player defended by Sendou Mitsuki to play pick and roll. Once Sendou Mitsuki switches defense, you will act as a turret and pull the opponent to shoot outside. Don't go into the penalty area to fight. Do you understand?" Yes, the one who will face Aoi on the Okayama side is most likely Suzuwa Shigeru, who is also 185 centimeters tall. So Coach Mamakura wants to use the pick and roll to force Sendou Mitsuki to switch to defend Aoi Masa. First of all, Sendou Mitsuki, who is barely 180 centimeters tall, will definitely be difficult to defend against a tall shooter of 190 centimeters. Secondly, after being shot by Aoi Masaru outside and being hooked out of the restricted area, it will be more difficult for Sendou Mitsuki to go back and grab the defensive rebound. You should know that many of Okayama's current offense and defense transitions are carried out by Sendou Mitsuki after grabbing the defensive rebound. As long as Sendou Mitsuki is not allowed to get the defensive rebound in the first time, Okayama's offense and defense transition will be weakened. "I understand." Aoi Masaru's eyes lit up, and he responded with full momentum. Soon, the timeout ended and the players from both sides came on the court again. Mamakura attacked. After the point guard dribbled across half court, he passed the ball to Aoi Masaru on the strong side, and he went to the bottom corner to open up space. As expected, the one defending Aoi Masaru was Suzuwa Shigeru, 190 centimeters versus 185 centimeters. The difference is not big, but the difference in athletic ability is huge. And this is also the key ability of Suzuwa Shigeru to become the captain of Okayama. He can fight against the power forward and give up the position to Sendou Mitsuki, go to the small forward, or even the guard. Masaru Aoi glanced at Suzuwa Shigeru and then winked at the other side. Immediately, according to the coach's arrangement, the small forward went forward to screen and roll, and Sendou Mitsuki was also hooked up as the coach expected. Then, Masaru Aoi held the ball. Although he was clumsy, the higher center of gravity of the control and dribbling caused the level of breakthrough to decline seriously, but with the pick and roll, his ball-holding ability was still enough to play. So Aoi used his control and the pick and roll of his teammates to call out Sendou Mitsuki, which was also the same as the scene expected by Coach Taotsong. Sendou, switch defense. No need to switch. Sendou Mitsuki saw through the other coach's idea at a glance. Although he was limited by his physical ability and coordination in his previous life, he only honed his defense in playing wild ball, but the tactical level, like most ordinary people, the worse he played, the more he loved to analyze. The sci-fi black basketball world focuses on the level of personal ability. This level is clear to Sendou, who has been immersed in countless live broadcasts of games. Therefore, he saw through the other party's thinking at a glance. Then, in order to avoid being pulled out by the big man who just sent the opponent to play a singles game, Sendou Mitsuki planned to go around the pick and roll and help Suzuwa Shigeru go around the pick and roll. Going around the pick and roll, this technique is one of the effective ways to defend against the pick and roll, but it has very high requirements. The most important thing is to have excellent prediction, to judge whether the opponent is going to go down or go out to shoot. If you can't judge this clearly, it's easy to be caught by the pick and roll man. And Sendou Mitsuki just happened to see it clearly. Whoosh, the last second, Suzuwa Shigeru heard Sendou say, "No need to change," and then he planned to grit his teeth and squeeze through the pick and roll of the small forward Mamakura. But the next second, he just felt his butt pushed. Then, Aoi Masa, who took a step back to pull away with the screen, saw an equally confused face appear in front of him. Off the court, coach Tao Tsung looked at the scene on the court with a look of astonishment. He predicted the start, but he could not guess such an outrageous ending. On the court, Suzuha Shigeru, who was in a daze, bypassed the pick and roll beautifully and did not let Aoi Masa call on Sendou Mitsuki. Facing Suzuha Shigeru, who was 185 centimeters tall and had good athletic ability, Aoi Masa was not so easy to beat. He had no choice but to choose to repeat the old trick and want his teammates to give him another pick and roll. However, Sendou Mitsuki, who helped Suzuha Shigeru bypass the pick and roll successfully, turned his head to look at Oji-oka Kaseyuki at the first time. The latter was slightly startled, and at that moment his eyes were full of the thief light in the other's eyes. That position, Sendou himself was completely exposed. It was impossible. So, is it for me to do it? Oji-oka Kaseyuki. At this time, facing another pick and roll in front of him, Sendou Mitsuki did not use the same means as his opponent in the previous round to deal with it. Instead, he waved his arms, squeezed the pick and roll aggressively, and switched defense to Aoi Masa. Instantly, the fluttering hands completely blocked the sight of Aoi Masa, who was leaning over during the control. Then took this opportunity. Oji-oka Kaseyuki finally did the same as Sendou Mitsuki. He did it too. Snap! Oji-oka Kaseyuki, who cooperated with Sendou inexplicably, suddenly let go of his defender at the moment Sendou acted, bent over and touched over. When Aoi Masa looked up, he was surrounded by two 180 centimeters guys from front and back. Taking advantage of the opponent's panic, Oji-oka Kaseyuki slapped the ball in his hand. Hyena grabbing crotch. Chapter 014. 16 points, 32 rebounds, 7 assists, and 5 steals that left coach Tao Tsung dumbfounded. Oji-oka. Fujido. The audience cheered and shouted the names of the two people. This scene surprised coach Okayama and other players. Oji-oka and Fujido. How long have they joined the basketball club? They have already conquered the students of Okayama. So amazing. It seems that our super rookie will not lose to the seniors in popularity in the future. The third-year players on the bench couldn't help but joked. That's right. I feel the same way. Okayama's turn. Point guard Shirkai Hyde held the ball and made a low-post tactical gesture at the top of the three-point arc. The players on the court ran one after another. The core of the tactic was Fujido Mitsuki. The opponent wanted to name Fujido, and Fujido, who saw through Aoi Masa's background, wanted to name the opponent in return. And it's much easier for him to order dishes at a low level than his opponent. As expected, the opposing Aoi Masayuki, although 10 centimeters taller than Sendou, and with the difference in arm span, the height difference would be even greater, he was completely unable to resist Sendou Mitsuki's no fixed pattern in the restricted area style of play. Seeing Sendou Mitsuki pull up in the restricted area and swing the ball into the basket, Aoi Masayuki was completely stunned. What was even more confusing, the two had such a big difference in size and weight, and the weight difference was nearly 20 kilograms, which was 40 jeans. But after the ball bounced out of the basket, Sendou Mitsuki's blocking easily destroyed Aoi Masayuki. Bang! After grabbing the position, Sendou Mitsuki pouted and sat back twice in a row. Aoi Masayuki felt like he was run over by a truck. He retreated continuously. When he lowered his eyes, he found that he was actually run out of the restricted area. Bang! Then, the power in front of him loosened. It was Sendou Mitsuki who went to grab the rebound. With a little effort in the air, he pushed the ball into the basket, and Aoi Masa, who had just been hit, could only watch the ball go into the basket. Good shot. Coach Kitagawara Masa applauded on the sidelines. During this period, he found that the style of play that Sentong insisted on was a bit outrageous. But as long as he could create a 1v1 opportunity in the penalty area, if it was 1 versus many, there might be a chance to lose the rebound, causing the attack to fail. But 1v1, self-shooting and self-rebounding, when the number of shots is increased, it is really accurate. Another offensive round of Okayama. Sentong Mitsuki once again singled out Aoi Masa in the low post. This time, after receiving the pass from Oji-oka Kaseyuki, he took a low step, missed the hook shot, grabbed the rebound, and scored in the second attack. For 2 consecutive rounds, Okayama used Sentong Mitsuki to play Aoi Masa, punishing them for substitutions. All successful. This also gave Coach Mamakura a new understanding of Sendou Mitsuki's singles. This guy, although his offense seems like a joke, but when it comes to 1v1 punishing opponents who are not as good as him in rebounding, it's really like a piece of cake. This is the third round of Sendou Mitsuki's consecutive offensive in the restricted area. After receiving the ball, he stepped into the restricted area with a low step. After shooting the unfixed restricted area, he was about to grab the rebound, but the next second, he was pulled down by a big hand. Beep! The referee blew the whistle immediately. Aoi Masaya raised his hand quickly. There was nothing he could do. He was really numbed by Sendou Mitsuki's beating, and he could only choose to use fouls to stop the opponent's secondary attack. Sendou Mitsuki went to the free throw line, and his shooting ability was a little poor, but fortunately, he also hit a ball. During the free throw period, Coach Tao Tsong did not replace Aoi Masaya, but arranged a joint defense for Sendou Mitsuki. As long as Sendou Mitsuki played low-post singles, in addition to Aoi Masaya, center Minamitsuji Tatsuo must also go to assist in defense. Tao Tsong Middle School used the key substitution of Aoi Masaya to open up space for the team, but it did not achieve any good results. Instead, it was forced to be restrained by Sendou Mitsuki alone on the defensive end. On the offensive end, they still struggled. In the following pick and rolls, they were destroyed by double teaming once, and the offensive time was about to end, and they had not called Sendou Mitsuki. In the end, Sendou was completely defeated in rebounds, and Sendou turned him into an ATM on defense. Coach Tao Tsong's plan to use Aoi Masa as a weapon to contain and kill Sendou Mitsuki failed. Off the court, the Tao Tsong students who came to support the team were so disappointed that they wanted to leave directly. In the first quarter, Sendou Mitsuki played for 8 minutes and got comprehensive data of 10 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 steals. To be honest, 9 rebounds in a single quarter were enough to explode, but the students in Okayama at the scene felt that Sendou Mitsuki had not really shown his dominance in rebounding, because Okayama seemed to be getting more and more accurate in the later shots. Of course, this is a good thing, and there is nothing we can do about it. Second quarter, Sendou Mitsuki came on the court in the second half and continued to stir up trouble in the restricted area. There is no harm without comparison. The difference between the time when Sendou was absent and when he was there was too obvious. For example, now, the rebounding competition in the interior of Mamakura has become like paper again. Not only was Sendou Mitsuki caught the offensive rebounds over his head one after another, but on the defensive end, Sendou's hit rate was low, but his various fancy shots in the restricted area made him look like an offensive master. The main goal is to do whatever he wants. Although if you think about it carefully, the balls that this guy really hit came from the second and third attacks after grabbing the rebound. Mamakura center Minamitsuji Tatsuo, who was on the side, would come to help Aoi Masa in defense at the beginning and even double-team Sendou Mitsuki, but Sendou's passing ability is very ordinary. But next to him is his center partner Kuroko Yuji, who is left open. In such a close open position, Sendou's pass is still stable. So, Kuroko Yuji was activated at once. In half a quarter, he took 7 shots and hit 5 of them, eating a lot of cakes. On the other side, another rookie in Okayama who has received much attention, Oji Oka Kaseyuki. In the positional battle, he quietly digested the ball rights. And, at the same time, he converted the rebounds of Shantang into points with the highest efficiency in the team. Unlike Shantang's high profile, his style of destroying Tao Tsong Middle School is quite low-key. Low-key and hyena crotch-grabbing are inexplicably contrasted. After 3 quarters. In the fourth quarter, Shantang Mitsuki only played for 3 minutes. The final data came to 16 points, 32 rebounds, 7 assists, and 5 steals, which made Tao Tsong coach dumbfounded. After the data was fixed here, Shantang did not continue to play. Chapter 0:15. Number 494 Black Basketball World Oka Kasayuki's ability entry penalty zone anesthesia room. Beep as the final whistle sounded. The score finally settled at 122-65. Okayama won a hearty victory in the first game of the new school year against another school. It is worth mentioning that in this game, Okayama had 6 players score in double digits. With the advantage of rebounding, Okayama's offensive firepower was fed quite terrifyingly. It also made the coach of Tao Song Middle School exclaim, "This year's Okayama, something is wrong. Very wrong. In the past, everyone was working hard for the national quota. But after playing today, Tao Song people were shocked to find that Okayama had secretly rushed to the national level team." After the game, after saying goodbye to Tao Song Middle School, which was beaten up and still doubted life until it walked out of the gate of Okayama, a series of mechanical and cold electronic sounds rang in the mind of Shantang Guanyue. Ding! Congratulations to the host for helping the team win the game and getting the Black Basketball Parallel World Points 50-foot. Ding! Game data point settlement. 16 points, get point 16, 32 rebounds, get points 64, 7 assists, get points 21, 5 steals, get points 25. The game got 176 points, plus the remaining 40 points from last time, a total of 216 points at present. According to the system rules, every 100 points can randomly draw the ability entry of the parallel world Oka Kasayuki, which means that today I can draw twice. Sendou Mitsuki was all smiles. He couldn't wait for the new entry, and he didn't want to wait even a second, so he started drawing immediately. Then, as the system sounded again, ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the ability entry of No. 1338658 Kuroko World Ajakase Yuki. 1-day customized training plan. In the first draw, when seeing the long string of numbers in front, Shantang Mitsuki realized that something was wrong. Sure enough, it was another old friend drawn last time. This result made Shantang Mitsuki laugh and cry. It's just a backup. One more time. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the ability entry of number 494 Kuroko World Ajakase Yuki. Forbidden Zone Anesthesia Room. The sudden appearance of the familiar number made Shantang Mitsuki stunned for a moment. 494, without a doubt, is much closer to the previous 7-digit numbers. But is it really exactly the same? And the entry name is obviously in the same series as Forbidden Zone Operating Room. But with the Forbidden Zone Operating Room as a precedent, should I have drawn something good? Penalty Zone Anesthesia Room. LV1, when blocking in the penalty zone, jumping, strength, prediction, and agility will be enhanced to a certain extent, and ultimately the blocking effect is like anesthetizing the opponent, Sendou Mitsuki. It can be confirmed. Oka Kasayuki in the parallel world number 494 is definitely a doctor. Now think carefully, this entry series from the name is faintly revealing a terrible killing. And for me, it is just filling the biggest shortcoming, the penalty area defense. For the current Shantang Guanyue, rebounding is the basic plate, and to grab rebounds, it is inevitable to fall into the penalty area as an inside player. But his current height and athletic ability outside the rebounding round are quite ordinary. Once the rebound is missed, it is necessary to face the opponent's penalty area attack directly, and the error tolerance rate is too low. But now it is different. Shantang Guanyue, operating room, anesthesia room. The upgrade of the operating room is easy to say. Rebounds, a game can produce a lot. But as for blocking, even if this entry ability is strong, it is not so easy to brush compared to rebounds. After all, if you scare people, they will really avoid attacking. So, the experience acquisition of this ability probably has to be implemented in daily training. Thinking of this, Shantang Guanyue subconsciously glanced at his good teammates, especially the first-year friends. At the same time, Oka Kasayuki, Tanabe Makoto, Hino Shinya, Kamiya Toyo, Donji Kaoru, several first-year students who had taken the initiative to stand up and say, "I want to improve too," last time, all shuddered involuntarily after noticing the gaze of Sendou Mitsuki. And the ominous premonition in their hearts was definitely not an illusion. The next day, the second day of the Okayama Mamakura match. In the excitement of the female classmates around her, Asakawa only felt a buzzing in her ears, and at the same time, she felt that she seemed to be a little behind the brain circuits of her peers. In yesterday's game, Sendou Mitsuki was of course the most eye-catching. But why do girls always talk about faces? But she is different. Until now, she clearly remembers that during the game, Sendou Mitsuki was in the penalty area, and the crazy jumping silver was a complete rebound domination. Well, it's just that his offensive means are a little lacking in defense. When defending, Sendou always habitually only uses experience to deal with it. Although such brain is also very handsome, it is not as eye-catching as when he grabs rebounds. He can obviously do more and better. Well, after all, he's a freshman. Maybe it's the limitation of physical strength. Anyway, for Sendou, the unprecedented cheers from the second floor stands yesterday are the best proof that Okayama has great potential this year. Just as Asakawa Yui was talking to herself, saying something that was difficult for girls of the same age to understand, everyone had unknowingly arrived at the door of Okayama Gymnasium. Then, bang, accompanied by a loud noise. From the gate of the gym, you can see Sendou Mitsuki flying in the air and knocking down Oji Kasayuki, who is also a super rookie on the team, to the ground. Whoosh! The ball flies past Asakawa Yui's ear. A pair of beautiful eyebrows and eyes were fixed on Shantang Guangyue. At the same time, the players in the gym who suddenly stopped their training actions suddenly fell on Shantang Guangyue, and everyone's eyes were dumbfounded with fear. Chapter 016. A bird locked in a cage with no chance of flying, and a snowy owl flying freely. Inside the gym, Oji Oka Kasayuki was obviously forcibly sedated after entering the anesthesia room of Sendou Mitsuki's restricted area, but he probably had a strong resistance to drugs, and soon regrouped and continued to challenge the anesthesiologist. Snap! Oji Oka Kasayuki's dribbling speed was very fast, and his fake moves were more and more complicated, but facing Sendou Mitsuki, every time he shot, he was eventually repelled like hitting a wall. Snap! In a very short time, Oji Oka Kasayuki attacked the basket. Blocked. Shoot. Blocked. Pull up. Blocked again. Although he could create shooting space in the restricted area every time with his superb skills, he could only create space. Snap! Blocked Oji Oka Kasayuki again, forcing him to calm down. A moment later, the edge of the restricted area. Oji Oka Kasayuki once again took the ball from Sendou Mitsuki and leaned forward slightly. In this round, he used his strongest strength and speed. At the same time, he chose the simplest and most brutal way of playing. Post-up singles. As the offensive side, the post-up singles technique has the advantage of active force, and at the same time, it can create a larger shooting space that the opponent cannot block in time by combining confrontation and skills. Bang! Oji Oka Kasayuki held the ball steadily with his back to the body and pushed it in with extremely agile movements. After reaching the right area, turned forward, fake shot. But before the ball was shot, there was no fluctuation in Sendou Mitsuki's eyes, and he still blocked in front of Oji Oka Kasayuki until the opponent hit him again, then turned to the other side and licked the basket from the other side of the basket with a big step. Restricted area. Anesthesia room. Shantang Mitsuki, who was in the blocking preparation, had the same amazing sense of the rebound as when he was grabbing the rebound. At the same time, his physical ability skyrocketed. Bang! The moment the ball left Ojioka's hand, changed the sluggishness of resisting being pushed in just now. Shantang took off directly on the spot. With a sound of snap, he actually pressed the ball directly on the backboard. Looking at the bright silver flashing above his head and the crisp sound of the nail board bursting in his ears, Ojioka Kasayuki couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. There was only one thought in his mind. Is this a sparring partner or a suffering? And Shantang, this guy, is he going to stop pretending this time? At the same time, although there was no special system prompt for Shantang Mitsuki's penalty zone anesthesia room entry during training, he could feel that the experience bar should fluctuate a little. Not conspicuous, but if it is realized as a system reality by imagination, then it must be like this now. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing a successful blocking training. Experience +1 outside the stadium. Asakawa Yui looked at Senda Mitsuki with burning eyes. For some reason, the conversations of the sisters before were gradually outlined in her mind. It seems like the same train of thought as that of people of the same age. I can resonate a little. However, when she heard the excited cheers ringing in her ears again, Asakawa Yui suddenly felt a buzzing noise again. She came back to her senses. After stopping her random thoughts, what she thought of now was the possibility that Okayama would go to the national team this year and achieve good results. It was very high. My elder brother once said, "Just stick to it until you succeed." At that time, his determination was so firm that even the sound of rain hitting the roof could not cover it. But in fact, looking at his expression, there was still a chance for hesitation to sneak in. The final result was the same. Talent. It is not something that you can have as long as you desire it. In the past 3 years, he has not been able to go to the national team once. At that time, I realized that if there is no talent, no matter how hard a person tries, there is a limit. Compared with birds that are locked in cages since birth and cannot fly, snowy owls that fly freely must be much happier because they can see with the naked eye that they have the possibility of flying higher and breaking through their limits. And now in Okayama, the ones who could be seen with the naked eye are Oji Oka Kasuyuki and Senda Mitsuki, especially Sendou. Soon, the basketball team's training for the day ended. As the captain, Shuzo Shigeru saw Senda Mitsuki and the first-year students resting in the same place. So he waited for a few minutes before coming over. "Sendou, your blocking training. Is that training really useful?" Shuzo Shigeru couldn't help asking. Hearing this, Senda Mitsuki glanced at the first-year friends beside him who looked sad and said seriously, "Of course, and the effect is surprisingly good, Shuzo Shigeru. However, your performance today is the strength you already have, right?" However, seeing Shantong's serious affirmation, Shuzo Shigeru was a little hesitant about Shantong's training mode that only focused on actual combat rather than physical training. Shaked his head. "You are really a genius. You guys, do you want to continue practicing?" Shantang Mitsuki nodded. "They still need to accompany me to practice blocking. If the captain wants to lock the gym, leave the key to me." After that, Shantang Mitsuki was ready to return to the court to continue training with his friends, but at this moment. But he heard Shuzo Shigeru behind him say, "Then, I will stay and join us. It's only a few months away from the preliminaries of the whole school. I also want to work harder. I can't let you guys, a group of newcomers, practice more while I, the captain, slack off." After hearing his words, Shantang Mitsuki had no time to react, but Hino Jinya and others beside him breathed a sigh of relief. "Good, Captain. You're such a good person." Very soon, Captain Shuzo Shigeru stood in front of Senda Mitsuki. At the same time, several third-year players and first-year friends who Senda Mitsuki did not let go were lined up outside the court. On the court, Shuzo Shigeru made an offensive move. The next second, snap! In the silent stadium, the sound of dribbling swiftly rang. A moment later, with a loud bang, all the dribbling sounds stopped abruptly. From a perspective of Asakawa Yui, who had not left the stadium yet, she could see Shuzo Shigeru being slapped by Senda Mitsuki and the ball flew away, and then she sat down on the ground with a confused look on her face. Now, she was more certain. The one who could lead Okayama to the national arena was Senda Mitsuki. And Shuzo Shigeru, who was on the court, really stood in front of Senda Mitsuki and experienced this defense. And only then did she personally experience how strong the opponent's block was. As strong as a monster. Chapter 017. There's been a change of plan. We are preparing to compete for the championship. We are going to go to the national level and win the championship. The time after joining the basketball club felt like it passed by very quickly, especially under the urgent leadership of the new leader, Senda Mitsuki. Not only did it feel like it passed quickly, but it even felt like time was running out. During this period of time, even the most ignorant newcomers could see that since Oji Kasuyuki joined, Okayama has regained its vitality to impact the whole country. And then Sendou Mitsuki joined. The atmosphere has changed little by little from striving to enter the national team until I don't know when. It has quietly changed to preparing for the championship. Really, to say that we want to compete for the championship, it's not an exaggeration at all. 8 o'clock in the evening, in the Okayama Basketball Club's arena. The lights are still on. Not only the newcomers are there, but also the regulars who joined the sparring plan later and then gradually spread to the substitutes, and finally directly to the entire basketball club. Everyone is there. And at this time, it is the new Okayama feature, the group fight against Sendou Mitsuki. Although it is under the rules set by Sendou himself, you can only attack him in the penalty area. But this scene, in the eyes of the bad boys who stayed outside the gym after school and did not go home, was like the Okayama basketball team was going to circle and kick the silver-haired devil who was surrounded in the middle. It's him, the silver-haired devil, or something. Boss, we don't interfere with each other. Don't provoke him. That guy's a complete monster. Yeah, every time I pass by the basketball gym at night, I can hear the painful wailing from the first grade to the third grade. Once I secretly watch the whole process, they really have something wrong. It seems that everyone likes to be abused. They were tortured by the silver-haired devil in the first grade. The bad leader with the crew cut secretly estimated that the silver-haired devil could rectify the combat power of the entire basketball team alone, and thought of the several tall and strong men in the third grade. In the end, he could only pout his lips to pretend to be polite. At the same time, in the gym, the ongoing duel is between Sendou Mitsuki and Oji Okagawayuki. To be more precise, it is a unique duel in the restricted area where one side only defends and the other side only attacks. The process, it is undoubtedly very painful for Oji Okagawayuki, and it feels that every day is more painful than the day before. Although Sendou Mitsuki's ability terms have not been upgraded, the strength has not increased, but the proficiency has been improved. In addition, with more fights, Sendou Mitsuki gradually understands the offensive methods and means of his teammates. So, the more he fights, the more comfortable he becomes, and the more addicted he becomes. Experience points. Rising after a while. Hino, Kamiya, have you rested well? Let's go together. That's right, considering that among the first years, except for Oji Okagawayuki, the others have a significant gap in strength with him. Sendou fights against other first years one against many. Hino Jinya and Kuramiya Toyo looked at each other helplessly. To be honest, the purpose of Shantong's training is just to block the defense. Such continuous jumping must consume a lot of energy, and it is indeed the case. Shantong's sweat flows to the floor, almost to the extent that he has to wipe the floor once every round. But this guy stared with his eyes and became more and more excited as he played. That is why, after a day of training, they're already exhausted, but they can still stand here, holding their breath, and improve with Shantang Mitsuki. They want to improve too much. On the other side, Shantang Mitsuki is of course tired, and sweat cannot be faked. But looking at the progress of his ability entries, this visible sense of achievement makes him excited, as if he has been injected with chicken blood during training. After the training that day, Shantang Mitsuki's restricted area operating room and restricted area anesthesia room saw the entry experience distance upgrade to LV.2 just around the corner. Before washing up, everyone in the basketball team sat on the ground weakly, and so did Sendou Mitsuki, who had reached the limit of his body. Suddenly, the first-year student Tian Jincheng said with some envy, "Sendou, Oji Oka, I feel that you may enter the national team as a regular in your first year." Although the atmosphere in the team has been rapidly evolving towards the championship recently, no one dared to mention it, and Tian Jincheng deliberately lowered the standard before saying it. First, he didn't want everyone's wishes to be unfulfilled in the end. Second, for Okayama, being able to break out of Ibaraki and go to the national team is already a great record, not to mention that the main players are 2 first-year students. On the side, Oji Oka Kasayuki leaned against the wall without false modesty. At least I think it's okay to go to the national team. He has always believed that overconfidence is arrogance, and over-humility is inferiority, and he has been down to earth to strengthen his strength. So he is confident that, except for strange guys like Sendou, first year, looking at the whole country, he should also be a top-tier player. The third-year players around them did not think that they were arrogant for being promised so easily by OG Oka Kaseyuki because they had not been able to achieve their goals in the past 2 years. On the contrary, they felt that OG Oka was very sincere. Of course, another reason why they could accept this so calmly was it was Sendou Mitsuki. Hey, Suzuwa, remember when we first joined the basketball club? Captain Suzuwa Shigeru turned around and met Kurono Yuji's serious expression. His mind immediately recalled the dreams and goals of those old-fashioned, hot-blooded idiots who were encouraged by their predecessors about basketball. Yeah, I remember. I have a feeling that this year's all-rounder is the perfect stage. Together with Captain Asakawa, together with the unfulfilled dreams. Suzuwa Shigeru subconsciously clenched his fists when he heard the voice. Some scenery can only be seen when you stand at the top, but it is also possible to imagine it at the bottom of the mountain, just like the Okayama basketball club in the past. But wait until it's your turn. Suzuwa Shigeru suddenly realized that he seemed to be so nervous that he was a little cautious even when imagining such a beautiful scenery. If it was Captain Asakawa, we will go to the national level, win a national championship. It will definitely be like this, regardless of everything. Applaud hard. Chapter 018. There is no shortcut on the road ahead. The most important thing is the feeling of not wanting to lose. From the time when Sendou Mitsuki and Oji Okaka Yuki joined the Okayama basketball club in April when school started, until the end of May now, there are less than 2 months left before the highest junior high school basketball competition, the National Junior High School Basketball Tournament, commonly known as Zinshu. Even this less than 2 months refers to the time when a national competition starts. Before entering August, each region will have to conduct a regional selection for Zinshu, and only the team that wins the regional preliminaries can step onto the final national arena this summer. And compared to the national competition, the preliminaries are the real long schedule, which will start in July and last for nearly a month. After all, those who can go to the national competition are the best, and the preliminaries are to eliminate the dross. Therefore, from this point in time, it can be seen that all teams have entered the white-hot preparations. It is also from this time that Sendou Mitsuki and other first-year rookies suddenly found that not only have there been more training matches, and the quality is mixed. According to the captain Suzuwa Shigeru, favors are mutual. It goes without saying that Okayama is willing to play against strong teams. For those teams that were strong in the past, but are now in decline, Okayama will not refuse training matches as long as the time can be coordinated. Of course, the same is true for teams that have always been in decline. In summary, if they ask, we will play. This is all about reputation and human relations. Otherwise, where would a wealthy team like Teak get so many training matches to allocate to the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st armies with hundreds of people? Moreover, weak teams are not necessarily without merits. Strong teams have their own ways of playing, and weak teams have their own ways of playing. This process is also a comprehensive intelligence war. However, for Sendou Mitsuki, in fact, it doesn't matter. He only sees a piece of points waiting for him to harvest, and an excellent battlefield to expand the number of entries for himself before the start of the full hit. He hopes that all teams will come to challenge before the big game. Fight hard. So, when Sendou Mitsuki walked into the Tokai billiards hall, he was like a hungry little silver lion with a fierce momentum, which made the first-year teammates behind him look at him sideways. That's right, considering the strength of Tokai. For this game, Okayama Junior High School sent out an all-first-year lineup, led by the regular players, only Sendou Mitsuki and Oji Oka Kaseyuki. But such a group of newcomers, when they first stepped into the Tokai billiards hall, received applause from their opponents. This scene made Sendou and others stunned for a moment. Then, they saw a familiar person coming in from outside the door. The second-year senior sister, Asakawa Yui, and, standing beside her, There was a tall figure with a height of 190 centimeters, and from the direction of everyone's eyes, there was no doubt that the applause was for this person. Sendou and others naturally didn't know him. But Asakawa Sho, the students of Tokaidai have already called out his name. Only then do the newcomers in Okayama equate Asakawa Sho's name with the captain of Okayama, although he is a senior whom they have never met, and the team does not mention retired seniors very often. This name is definitely an exception, and everyone mentions it with respect. I just don't know what's going on with these people in Tokaidai. This momentum. Senda Mitsuki thought Asakawa Sho was a graduate of Tokaidai. At this time, the assistant coach Nakashiba, who led the team, saw everyone's confusion and explained, when Captain Asakawa was in the 3rd grade 2 years ago, plus the 3rd graders last year. That was the period when Okayama had the best chance to go to the national level. But in the round-robin finals, we fought the then number 1 seed Kitanojo to the death in the first game. Although we tried our best to defeat the opponent in the end, we lost 2 games in a row and were picked up by the number 3 and number 4 seeds. At that time, Tokaitai was the no. 3 seed. That was also the first time in their school history that they entered the national level. And it was the first time for all the sports departments in their school combined. Everyone was silent for a moment after hearing this. What a pity. It's a pity just to hear it. Therefore, freshman Kurodenshi couldn't help but ask, so, since the opponent is the number 1 seed, why don't you give up that game? If you get the top 2 in the round-robin finals, you can go to the national team, right? Now, it was assistant coach Nakashiba's turn to be silent, but he only hesitated for a moment, and then his face was replaced by a pride that was difficult to conceal. Captain Asakawa said that there is no shortcut to the road ahead. You must also remember that going all out is respecting the opponent and respecting yourself. Giving up is the simplest and most boring behavior. What will happen in the future and whether we can win the next game are irrelevant. Defeat the opponent in front of you and give full play to your full strength. That moment, the feeling of not wanting to lose, is the most important. And obviously, our opponent Kitano Chung at that time had the same idea. Assistant coach Nakashiba turned his head and looked at everyone, and a smile suddenly appeared on his face. If you choose to give up, you will suffer in the future, and it will never be like now. Although I am unwilling, I let everyone see that the so-called weakness, retreat, and giving up cannot stop us. At that time, we felt very happy. Chapter 019. Shuzo Mitsuki deliberately let go of the defense and jumped up to block shots continuously in the penalty area, even though they had not communicated and even their eyes had not met. The words of assistant coach Nakashiba were the words of Asakawa Sho that were conveyed to the new players of Okayama through his mouth, made the new players present clearly outline the image in their minds. Hino Jinya couldn't help but get goosebumps all over his body, and Oji Okakase Yuki, at that moment, deeply penetrated every word he heard into his body and mind. As for Senda Mitsuki, he now only felt the urge to go on the court to harvest points, inexplicably bursting. At the same time, on the other side, Asakawa Sho, who retired from the Okayama basketball team the year before last, is still fighting on the court in high school. He has grown taller and his body is stronger, but from the perspective of assistant coach Nakashiba Takashi, his expression has not changed at all. As an ace, exploration, the expectations of those around him, his actions are directly related to the team's victory. The responsibility he shoulders. To surpass or to be crushed, Asakawa Sho had given a firm answer during his 3 years of training in Okayama. Asakawa Sho, he would never be at the dividing line between the two. He must be on the way to surpass. Nakashiba Takashi could vaguely see the spirit he wanted to see in his eyes, and Asakawa Sho, after retiring, has always been paying attention to Okayama, especially since his sister is also studying in Okayama, so the channel for obtaining information is smoother. Is a newcomer with arrogant hair a Senda Mitsuki? Asakawa Sho focused his eyes on the young man who led Okayama. From the other's eyes, he could clearly see the desire, and, at the same time, the high-spirited confidence. It's really amazing. using such a body to fight in the penalty area? He is different from you. He is a genius. Hearing this, Asakawa shook his head speechlessly. His sister, I felt that she cared more about not being able to make it to the national team during his junior high school career than I did. The warm-up time passed quickly. The game was about to begin. Okayama's lineup today is the sparring team of Sendou at the beginning. Point guard, Keira Donji. Shooting guard, Kasayuki Hagioka. Small forward, Shinya Hino. Power forward, Makoto Tanaka. Center, Mitsuki Sendou. 2CI Kuromiya, who overlaps with Kasayuki Hagioka, unfortunately fell to the bench as the team's sixth man. And in this game, Mitsuki Sendou finally successfully landed at the center position with a height of 180.4 centimeters, accurate to the decimal point. I have grown a centimeter. Recently the game begins. Jump ball. Mitsuki Sendou unfortunately lost. So after the game started, Tokaidai High School took the lead, and they also played the core outside shooting style that most junior high school teams would play. And right at the beginning, he had a very good touch and hit 2 3-pointers in a row. And on the Okayama side, after the opening, the offensive touch was not very good. At the beginning, Shantang took care of the first-year sparring partners and wanted them to find a breakthrough point on the outside. He took the initiative to cover for this purpose. The pick and roll was effective, but unfortunately, the shot was unsuccessful. He took 2 shots at the beginning, but both ended up unsuccessful. As for the rebound, Shantang Mitsuki, as the center this time, covered all the way to the 3-point line and lost a rebound because of a little distraction. Tokaitai attacked again. The point guard held the ball. Because the friends in Okayama missed the shot under the call of Oji Okakase-yuki, they first put all their energy into defense. This made it easier to find the feeling of the game and relieve the tension. So, facing the tight defense of Okayama on the perimeter, the Tokaitai point guard immediately imitated Okayama and asked the center to come forward and screen for him. No need to squeeze the screen. If he screens, I will switch defense directly. Although the center of Tokaitai is not tall, he is very strong and the quality of the screen is quite high. Shanang estimated that it would be difficult for the point guard, Keru Denshi, to squeeze through. So, Shantang Mitsuki chose to directly defend the point guard. The opponent saw that it was the center who was defending him alone. Although from the perspective of body shape, it is really not related to the center, but it is still a center anyway. The synonym of the center is slow footsteps. He immediately got excited. But the next second, he looked up. The Tokaitai point guard. The opponent was blocking the position sideways on the one hand, preventing him from passing the ball to the center position on the other side, and on the other hand, he opened the door wide to let go of the breakthrough channel. The point guard was immediately puzzled. My mind was full of crotch dribbling, back dribbling, passing the wooden stakes, all the super powerful techniques that I had imagined in my mind, which would be used in the next second to pass this center, all became invisible in an instant. I just let him go. I was stunned and a little embarrassed. You are a center, and you let me break through. There is no rim guard for you in the restricted area. Even if your power forward comes to help defend, I can break through and pass the ball. Swish. Without hesitation, the Donghaitai point guard quickly broke through the left wing. Behind, Sendou Mitsuki was visibly slower than the opponent. In the blink of an eye, he was left behind by the opponent by half a body. At the same time, power forward Tian Jincheng wanted to come over to help defend, but after seeing Sendou push back and signal him not to come over, he stopped immediately. Tian Jincheng. Yes. Who is he? The big devil, Sendou Mitsuki. Why does he need to help defend himself? In the restricted area, the Donghaitai point guard saw that everyone from Okayama was indifferent to his attack into the restricted area, and he couldn't help but feel happy in his heart, thinking, are you really just staring at the person in front of you? First grade. No team discipline, then I'll take this ball. Although the Donghaitai point guard thought very arrogantly, when he put into practice, he suddenly made a fake move before reaching the basket. Sure enough, the Okayama center behind him jumped over. TSK. The jump is really far. The body retracted, changed the angle, and shot again. It was so easy, The Dong Haitai point guard was confident that he could score this ball. But not long after the ball was out of his hand, the Okayama center who had just jumped and missed him suddenly turned around. Jump! The speed of the jump was amazing. Immediately afterwards, a hand came down from a very terrifying height on his head. Bang! A muffled sound. The ball was slapped hard. Chapter 020. Shan Tang Guangyue raised his hands, like a snowy owl spreading its wings, covering the sky and the sun. The point guard of Tokaitai looked up stiffly. The person in front of him, that's right, number 12. It was the first-year center of Okayama, named Sendou Mitsuki. But just now, he had used a fake move to trick him into taking off, jumping from behind him to the front with amazing elasticity, even to the baseline. How? He appeared here again in the blink of an eye? Is this reasonable? Also, was the height of his block just now too high? Are there really middle school students who can work in the air at such a high position? It's almost interference with the ball, right? The point guard of Tokaitai instantly had 3 questions in his heart. At the same time, off the court, from Sendou Mitsuki's sudden jump to close the distance, to that extremely terrifying second jump. The coach of Tokaitai and even everyone on the bench stood up suddenly, a set of zone anesthesia room. All the members of Tokaitai not only did not get drunk, but all stood up, and just now on the bench of Okayama. Here it comes, Sendou's block. Oh my god, so fast, beautiful, so high. Sendou can definitely dunk. Why doesn't he dunk when he's attacking normally? The first-year members of Okayama are, of course, not just Sendou's practice team. On the bench, there are other first-years who are almost as good as basketball enthusiasts. At this time, they all stood up. Under the leadership of Kirimiya Tozii, they cheered for Sendou Mitsuki, and the atmosphere was boiling like a pot. However, Sendou Mitsuki's amazing performance on the court was not over yet. After Sendou Mitsuki fanned the ball away, flying to the sideline, the players of Tokaitai were very active in the fight. The small forward got the ball first, and then made a fake start to the left and right, passing Hino Jinya, who was defending him. And while everyone was surprised by Sendou Mitsuki, he rushed into the penalty area with the ball and fiercely rushed into the basket. Swish! After the friction sound of sneakers and floor. Swish! A jump step, holding the ball with both hands. He wanted to finish the attack on the weak side of Sendou Mitsuki. At this time, Sendou Mitsuki was some distance away from the opponent. In addition, he had just blocked the point guard of Dong Haitai for this ball, let alone the members of Dong Haitai's basketball department. Even the Asakawa brothers and sisters did not believe that Sendou Mitsuki could defend the Dong Haitai small forward who had already entered the attack action. But the fact is, defended. Sendou Mitsuki groaned as his physical ability exploded. Then, the explosion ignited and jumped again. With the blessing of the penalty zone anesthesia room, Sendou's enhanced agility, jumping, etc. in the penalty zone exploded at this moment. Even if it was the 3rd consecutive jump, the speed was still frighteningly fast, and the height was like riding a rocket, which made everyone at the scene dumbfounded. Bang! In the shocked eyes of everyone. This time, he blocked the Dong Haitai small forward attack on the basket and blocked the ball with him. The ball even hit the opponent before it went out of bounds. Bang! Under inertia, he landed in front of the Dong Haitai small forward who was sitting down. At this moment, Sendou Mitsuki raised his...
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.